welcome to this month's update. And I say this month because I don't know what else to say. I'm trying to get more videos out, but frankly, videos need to be interesting in order to make them worthwhile putting out here. Lots of things have been occurring, and so I figure we'll start off with what is done. The lower yard, staging yard is done. It's actually ready to go into the sugar mill area. And we have actually power running and things are all ready to go, so it's looking better. This has been the most important thing that had to get done first because of the fact that Denver sits on top of all this. And once Denver gets put on top, it'll be very difficult to get into this area and to repair anything. So it's really critical that this is all perfectly lined up and that there's not a possibility really of derailments. Now, you can never make things perfect, but you can certainly get awfully darn close to them, and that's what I've been working on. Part of the design process was that this area would be covered, so make the tracks as straight as possible. Make sure they're laid perfectly straight and no problems. And as you can see from the camera angle, which I set you in that position specifically so you could see that this is all straight and none of the turnouts are even underneath there. Matter of fact, all the turnouts are located on the edge, on both ends. Actually, through that wall is the south end, which is totally open. And then over here on the north end, it is mostly open. We'll be able to reach them from both sides underneath the layout, and any repair can actually be done. And reaching turnouts and picking up cars can be done. But all of this needs to be just perfect so that it would work extremely well. And that's the goal, is to make it so that it's as flawless as can be. Some of you, take a step back here. Everything is done, and this is just about complete. The only part that's not complete is where you're standing right now. I'll put a still shot up to show you what's going on there. But that is the last of the staging yard, and it works its way up along the side of the wall that's right behind you. And that is just about finished. I'll probably have it finished by the end of this week or next weekend. That'll be all ready to go. We had a little setback with working on this area. I had finished this whole area in here, and I had cut the rails, and so I went to open this up, this drawer here, to make sure everything was working wrong, and it wasn't pulling out very well. And just not even thinking that I missed a cut, I began to slowly but surely, kind of keep pulling until finally I got it to move. And when I got it to move, I ripped these two rails up, which then ripped these two rails out, which meant all these joint plates that I have in here all had to come up and relay the whole thing again. I lost about 9 feet of track. Speaking of track, I have reached the 400 feet mark on flex track. Now, that's not how much track is on the railroad, because I'm not counting up switches, because I hand lay them and I make each of them separately, and depending if they're a 6 or an 8 or a 12 or a 10, they're different lengths. But 400 feet of track just in flex track has been done, just mostly in the staging yard. There is some, of course, on the helix that was done, but the majority of that 400 feet is right here in the staging yard, and that is as planned. There are 14 storage tracks in here for the staging yards, 7 on the upper, 7 on the lower. A lot of this staging yard was really important, that as this car shows, the goal is to get these to run across here with no problems whatsoever, so that when you do pull them out like this, that they will line back up again. And I'm going to move these few tracks here I've been working with earlier. We'll just pull them out of the way So we can pull this shelf out. It'd been good if I had been prepared for that, but hey, it's no fun if you don't do it the tough way. And these shelves are all come out just nice and neat. And the goal is then, of course, that after you pull them out and you work on the lower level that you get into there, you can then put these right back in place. And have the cars come through with no problems, with no more alignment than just making sure the pins are set. So that's a major accomplishment, and this is pushing me to the next step, which will be getting the sugar mill put in, which we'll show you a little later on when we're talking about bench work, and Longmont put in. Right now we have just one peninsula left to build. You can see this peninsula on the edge here. So this is the Denver area, this is the Denver Industrial, and as it comes around, it's going to go to the Larkspur, which there's a bridge there. If you go to Larkspur and Google map it, you can see the bridge. It's the Santa Fe Bridge. It's from the Joint Line, and that's going to be on the layout as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a turn. Oh, another change. I don't want to forget to mention that. I have a crew now. Two gentlemen have agreed to help me build this layout, Mark and Jim. Mark has been here, both Jim and Mark came one day just to tour the layout, and then Mark came another day and helped me build some bench work. So that's moving forward. So I'm really looking forward to that. And again, the goal is to try and have the main line up and operating by November. That's a lofty goal, but I think we can accomplish it. We're going to make a turn here of the camera so you can see this peninsula here and kind of give a little more update on what's going on over there. So just one moment while we shift the camera. Okay, welcome to this corner. This is the Middle Peninsula. This is 6.5 feet wide. It can actually be expanded a little wider. But one of the goals I had set up here was to make sure that I had plenty of space. If I have an open house, it's much more easier to move around. People can move around and see things if there's not a lot of crowded spaces. I was at the Indianapolis Junction 2022, and Bill Dardaby was there. And Bill has an absolutely gorgeous layout. He's certainly been in Model Railroad magazine several times. And Bill kind of expanded a little bit on his conversation in his clinic, that he talked about that if he were to rebuild the layout again, the one thing he would do more than anything else was make sure that the aisle space was much wider. He would make the layout narrower and make it wider. I've taken that approach from the beginning. I have the advantage of touring quite a few layouts, and the layouts that are most comfortable are the ones that have nice wide spaces that people can move through. Matter of fact, I just operated a layout not too long ago, just up in the northwestern corner of Indiana, and the gentleman we had, I would say there was about 15 of us, 16 of us at the operation session, and there were times it was congested, but that was because trains had all gotten in the same area. But for the most part, it was very comfortable to move around between locations. It was not bad at all. I'm not ever thinking that I'm going to have 15 people here on an operation session. I'm probably thinking about 8, maybe 10, no more than 12 for sure. But having the wide aisles makes it worthwhile and much more comfortable. I also have foam pads because this is on a cement floor, making it much comfortable as well. Anyway, getting back to this peninsula, it's about 6.5 feet wide. It's set for a 32-inch radius around the outside edge. But What I might do is expand it. It actually will accept a 41 inch with no problem without really having to expand much of anything. But I might widen this out, take a couple more inches and make it a 42, 44 inch, just because it'll look nicer with rolling stock rolling around it. Haven't decided that yet. It's easy enough to solve. Adding on a couple inches off of the ends of these risers will be no big deal. There'll be backdrops coming into here, and at 6 feet, I know a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, 6 feet, how are you going to reach all the way back there? Well, by the time you put backdrops in there and put some scenery against the backdrop, and pretty soon you're just sitting within the first 25 to 30 inches of the edge of the layout is where the track is going to go. So you need the distance because I need to account for scenery and a few other things in there. So there'll be a backdrop that'll come into here. There's also a backdrop. If you look back on the back walls back there, you saw in there that there were some part of the plywood comes out and sits back by the windows. It's missing some 2x2s which will go into there, and that'll hold the backdrop up on that. It'll cover about 80% of the windows, so you won't see the windows at all coming from this side, and when you're over in Denver you'll only see a slit up across the top. So that's kind of what's been going on there. And then we're going to make one more shift as we can come over here, and you'll be able to see the area. You can see part of it over here in the corner where the last of the ladder is being put in. It's a pinwheel ladder, a little more finicky, so I got to make sure that it's all lined up and the curves are all set. But let me rotate the camera just slightly, and we'll be back here. Okay, this is the last part of the tour for this update here. This is some of the area that Mark and me worked on. We built that pylon there, these L girders. Also over in Longmont, and I'll put a still shot up here in just a second, of the 23 feet by 37.5 inch length area. That is the Longmont Sugar, Great Western Sugar Company's location. And if you Google Longmont, Colorado, and Great Western Sugar, you can see that's a huge area, and that's going to be one of my primary industries on this layout. There is going to be going through there. The lower track, the lower staging yard back here goes in, and right over there is where it's going to go through the wall and come into that that Longmont Sugar area, and so there'll be a yard and the sugar mill and all that. You're currently in the aisle of where I was just standing not too long ago, and back behind you is the Longmont Peninsula, which is not built yet. That's coming next. That's the next thing we'll be building, and then that'll join into this. This is the upper staging yard coming back through here. This is the pinwheel ladder going through here. The switches are already built and in place here. They're not glued down or anything. They're just ready to begin lining this up. Again, a critical factor is going to be getting those joint plates and everything all set up so I can pull that drawer out with no problem. Again, not having any problems with derailment. As that comes into the ladder here, now this is just a board that will eventually get cut to what I need. But right now, while moving that track around, I've got a little space to work with it, and I can do some adjustments, and eventually the track will come across here through the wall here and up on against the wall into Longmont to the Longmont Y. So the Y will have one portion coming in through the sugar mill, another portion coming in through against the wall here from the upper staging yard, and then it loops around and then comes back through here, and when it loops around, that's the third leg of the Y. So that's what we're kind of looking at right now. Really am very pleased with the progress. Come August will be 1 year. I have been working on this and getting the construction done. And to get this much done in a year by myself has been very pleasing. It's going to be a huge help to have Mark and Jim here to help me out. So I'm really looking forward to that. I guess at this point in time, that's really the only thing I have for an update. Oh, I had a couple questions came up. Two of the questions I had come up One was about my lighting, and I have just shop lighting in here. I specifically laid the shop lighting out the way it is, and I like it this way. I'm not going to go through the dimmer process. I'm not going to try and do sunset rises and everything else. For the most part, this is going to be what it is. Now, I am debating what I'm going to do for valances coming down. And I probably will have some come down, but I don't want to put any valances up until I have the layout edges defined. Or once those edges are defined, then I'll begin to work with where I'm putting the valance. It makes no sense to put the valance in too far or to have it out too far on the edge. So until those table edges are defined, no valances are going up, but that is coming eventually. Now, the other question I had was about the construction of using the boxes. The box construction for the pillars was actually designed that way because I was the only one originally starting the layout. And it's very difficult to clamp up a leg over here, a leg over here, and a leg over here when you're one person trying to hold everything up. And the advantage of building a box like that is they're freestanding. They stand by themselves. So I basically just place it where it needs to go, place the other one where it needs to go, take the L girder and just drop it right into place. Once it's in place and I've got the bench where it needs to go, I can drop a screw right into that. One screw holds it, and that's all I need to do. So the reason why for the box pylons is because it made it easier for one person to construct. Another difference in this time in this layout is typically I've always built storage areas underneath my layouts. Because of the new home that I have, it has afforded me a separate room just for my hobby shop and a modeling room to store some additional things. So I have lots of storage area. So eventually all the stuff that you see underneath here, while it's being used for construction, it will eventually be gone. And all that will be in this room is just going to be the pylons underneath there and nothing underneath the layout at all. A very clean, simple look. I don't want to put skirting on it. I want it to just look nice by itself. This is a rarity that I get to do something like this, but I have the storage area to make that all happen. So that's kind of what I'm doing. And that's the plan that I have. So that's the reason behind the square pylons. They happen to be very, very sturdy and very durable. And they do cost a little more because, you know, cost of plywood. We all know what's going on. But it is very sturdy, very easy, very flexible to move around if I need to move it. And I think that each of the pylons uses roughly one sheet of plywood. So it's not outrageously priced, especially when you're considering how big the project is and how much it's going to cost doing that. So, but that's the plan. Hopefully we'll get videos out much more often, but this is just a short update. I hope you've enjoyed it. Until next time, happy modeling.